Alright, in this video I'm going to demonstrate how to make a whip out of paracord, much like this one. The concept behind it is that when you whip this end that's all fat with many strands, it slowly tapers and gets thinner and thinner. And as it gets thinner and thinner, the whip moves faster and faster. So here at the very end, where you have just a single strand of paracord, it is going so fast it breaks the sound barrier and you hear the cracking sound. So to do this, we're actually going to start with the tip. So I just have like a little clip on my bookshelf here, and I'll just tie it off. It doesn't need to be anything in particular here. Alright, once you've got this hung up, next you're going to need two strands that are very long, probably about 20 to 25 feet. So I just do little arm spans here. Start. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll do that. If you were doing a little bit longer whip, you might want to go up to like 25 feet. This for me is about 20 feet using my span. Singe the edges here. Okay, make sure the other strand is the same length. Alright, so I have these two strands. I'm going to find their midpoint. Okay, and then to get started, I'm just going to tie this. I'm actually going to tie it higher than I need to, just because it makes the untangling process a little bit easier. So I'm going to go way up here, tie this off. Actually, I'm going to change that. I'm going to tie this one off near the tip of the paracord, and I can trim that up later. I'm going to change this one to be just a little more like high up, yeah. Okay. Alright, for round braiding, it's pretty simple. You have equal number of strands on each side, and you always just pass one side through the center of the other. So I'm going toward the back, so in through the back between these other two strands, and then back onto its original side. Now it's the left side's turn. So we go back through here and back to its original side. So now it's this strand's turn. So back through here to its original side. I am kind of getting twisted, but I'm not too worried about it. The main thing as you're doing this is just to ensure that whatever strands start on the right, stay on the right. Whatever strands start on the left, stay on the left. Okay, so now it's this strand's turn. So going around the back, in through the middle, and back to its original side. You do want to make these nice and tight. It'll make the whip way better, so occasionally just kind of like pull on each strand individually in order to make it nice and tight. Okay, so now that one. Alright, I'm going to get in nice and close to make sure you can see this. So this strand is going to go in through the back between these and back to its original side. Now this strand is going to go in through the back of these, back to its original side. Now it's back to the left side, in through the back, onto its original side. Okay, after a while, you'll see I kind of start getting a little bit tangled here, so just occasionally make sure you're holding on to one side or the other. You know, don't ever let the sides get mixed up. It's just like a pain to figure out which side's what if you do that. So here I'm just kind of, I haven't let go with my left hand. I'm just kind of like using my right hand to kind of free these strands from each other. Alright, and then we can go back to the grind here. So right side, left side, right side, left side, right side, left side. Alright, notice I'm trying to keep it really tight, and let's work out the tangles here. Alright, hopefully that's getting you into a nice rhythm. Let's speed up this part. All right, when you get to some certain distance, I'm gonna go, you know, whatever, 20 or 30 centimeters, maybe up to a foot. You're gonna need to start making the whip thicker. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna incorporate a strand into the middle of this round braid. All right, so I'm gonna take a black strand, and it basically just needs to be the length from here to the tips of these yellow strands, and then times 2. So I'll just bring all 3 of them together. Figured that would tangle pretty badly. No worries. All right, don't trim it here. Remember, we have to double it over. So coming back the other way. All right. Okay, so I have the midpoint of the new strand. One thing I did a poor job of was keeping the two halves separate, but I think I've got them right there. Okay, so I'm going to take the midpoint of the new strand and just place it behind and in the center. So now I've got kind of a yellow, black, yellow thing going. And then I'm just going to continue weaving as though I was like on track. So this one would be next. All right, as I was editing that portion of the tutorial video, I realized that I was doing an exceptionally poor job of keeping the whip in frame on the camera. So I'm gonna just redo this part with a new clip with just really short strands, just kind of a little demonstration of the part that you missed because I had to cut it out of my actual video project here. So I kind of left off here. I've got 2 sides. Obviously, it was a lot longer of a section here, more than just this couple inches, but let me just demonstrate what I did here. So you take a new strand that's double the length of each of my tails, right? Because like I need each side of my black strand to end at the same place that my yellow strands do. I'm going to take the midpoint of the new strand and put it just kind of behind these other strands like this. Right, so it's kind of just resting behind. So now I've got like a yellow, black, yellow pattern on each side. And then I'm just going to continue to round braid as though the black strand weren't there for a second. So this strand is next. It goes around the back. And instead of, you know, going right through the middle of the 2 yellows, it'll go through the middle of the yellows, but it'll also catch the black strand as well. And so already you can see the black strand is incorporated into the whip in some small way. Now it's this side's turn. And you kind of have 2 options. You could go under just the black strand, or you could go under the black and the first yellow. Either way should kind of look fine. I've done it both ways, and I think the one that looks a little bit better is to go under 1. So I'll go under just the black strand and then come back over to this side. So that makes for a little bit of a asymmetrical weave, but I think it actually looks more symmetrical in the end. So take that for what it's worth. So to kind of follow that pattern, the right hand side comes through the left under 2 and back to its original side. But then the left hand side comes around, only goes under 1 and back to its original side. So under 2, back to its side, under 1, back to its original side. Okay. Under 2, back to its original side, under 1, back to its original side, under 2, under 1. You get it. All right, so this does make it look pretty nice as compared to if you were, you know, trying to do under 2 on both sides. You'll see what I mean if you dare try it. Like, it'll work fine, but it just won't look quite as good. Okay, let's go ahead and like get to adding a 4th strand. So here I have another black strand. Find the midpoint Again, the length should be equal to the other strands so that they all end at the same place on your real whip. This is gonna once again go behind, and we're gonna now have 4 strands, so we can kind of get back to a symmetrical weave here. So it's this side's turn. I get to go under 2 and above 2, right through the middle, back to symmetry. Isn't that lovely? Then this side gets to go under 2, back to its original side. Now this one's turn, under 2, back to its original side. Now the first time this strand gets to get into the action, under 2, back to its side. This side, under 2, back to its side. This incorporation of strands as you go is really what makes the whip taper from thin to thick as you go. Really, I would go, 20 centimeters-ish on each step. I tend to like hate the odd numbers so much that they're actually usually a little shorter. Sometimes I'll only go like 10 or 15 centimeters on those sections, and then go ahead and like switch to another strand and do that one maybe a little bit extra long. But yeah, that's the basis of it. And from there, you just plug and chug, keep going until your whip has, I don't know, something like maybe 10 or 12 strands on each side. So let's go to that point. So much tangle. Come on, lighter. Don't do me dirty. My paracord management needs some brushing up, apparently. All right, I've braided all the way down till I've got 10 strands on each side. I feel like that's probably about right for a whip. I think I've made other whips with as few as 8 or as much as 12 on each side, but this seems to be a good sweet spot. So it's time to attach it to a handle. So here I've got a little piece of like willow or tamarisk or something. I'm going to use this as the handle. The receiving end, I've just kind of like used a saw to cut it up a little bit so that the paracord has something to grip onto. I've also cut a little taper. I don't think you really need to do that, but I just thought it might like look nicer as I attach it to the paracord. I've tried a few different designs for handles and none of them have failed, so apparently it doesn't matter too much. This other handle, you'll notice it's a lot longer. I kind of wish I had made this willow one a little longer. I just barely cut it and I could have cut it longer. This is juniper, which I kind of prefer, but yeah, anyway, let's do it. So I'm going to start by placing the handle behind the cords, and I'm going to just begin weaving it in there as though I'm just continuing my braid. So let's come around the back, through here, and across the front. And then notice that when I went around the back, I need to make sure I catch the stick there. Let's try to place it more deliberately here. Yeah, maybe right about there. Okay, and then get one from this side. All right, that's okay. I want to actually move it down just a little bit. Yeah. Okay, let's do a couple more now. I'm kind of just leaving it more or less loose at the moment, but I'm going to tighten it all up really tight in just a second. Let's do one more from each side. That one next. All right, now, like I said I was going to do, I want to cinch this up really well. So holding it firmly with the back of my fingers here just to keep it all together while I cinch it up. All right, so that's on there pretty good. I'm going to weave just a little bit further now. I don't think there's any like really right way to do this as far as like the way I've done it before. Like I say, no handle I've made has ever failed, so apparently it's not super finicky. But I will go over it with more paracord in just a minute. All right, let's cinch that up. All right, notice that I'm really wrenching down on this, making sure it gets nice and tight. All right, and then starting from the bottom two cords, I'm actually going to flip this around. Starting from the bottom two cords, I'm going to tie these in an overhand knot. Notice I'm tying it one-handed because I still have my finger pressing firmly here to keep tension. And I'm going to use my teeth. Yeah, that's not going to stay very tight, is it? Let's do a double wrap and hope that that'll make it cinch a little tighter. All right, nice. Okay. I know in past iterations, I've like tied all of these up. You know, so like now moving to the second one and doing more overhand knots. But I really don't think you need to because of what I'm going to do next. So what I'm going to do next... So next I'm going to take another piece of paracord. This is plenty long, but I don't think I'll use the whole thing. But we're actually going to do a technique used to keep the tips of ropes from fraying, which coincidentally enough, the technique is called whipping, at least as far as I know. And it goes like this. You take a bend in the rope, a bite, and you put it over the part you're going to wrap. Now I'm leaving plenty out the bottom because I'm going to need to grip it and pull it really hard. The rest of these strands, I'm going to kind of just tuck them tightly backward like this. Okay, and now you take the long end, so not the short end here that I'm going to pull at the end, but you take the long end and you just begin wrapping. I will do one overhand to start, although I don't think that's strictly necessary. But this should just help keep everything a little bit tighter and from moving. All right, so now I'm wrapping. And as I wrap, I'm actually getting tighter and tighter. When I say tighter and tighter, I'm pulling just about as hard as I can. I'm pulling hard enough that I can tell it's going to be really hard to pull the end through at the end. But that's okay. You want it to be really tight. So as you can see, I'm now just overlapping the parts that have already been braided around the stick, around the handle, to the point where like this extra tension from this paracord, this extra pressure is going to hold everything on there. So even if you're flinging it around, whipping it, the paracord's not going to go anywhere. All right, almost to the tip here. I'm basically just going to go as far as the stick goes. No need to go really any further than that. All right, I think I'm about to the end of the stick. Okay, so I think I'll go around this last time. The trick at the end is to pull the tail through that loop of rope, and then I'm gonna hold on to this with my finger while I grab the tail end, the pulling end. Yep, it's pretty hard to pull, but you're just gonna go ahead and pull this. You want to be able to get it at least through the first couple strands if you can. Oh man. Let's try. Okay, I'll just use my other whip handle here to help with the pulling process here. There we go. See how it now tucked down in there a little ways? That's what you want. And with that, I'm now satisfied. So all these tail ends can be trimmed off and singed, and the whip is essentially done. All right, I think I got it. Just to demonstrate, like, this is not going anywhere. It's really on there. So yeah, I think this is a success. Let's pull it down, see how it looks. I think with my color scheme I've got going here, I think I should call this something cool, like the Hornet or something. Got its little stinger at the end. Yeah, in actuality, this is probably one of the shorter whips I've made. Should still work, but yeah, maybe if I had gone 25 feet instead of 20 with the original measurement, and then it would have been a little bit better. But yeah, like I say, it should still work. All right, so I've got the whip I just made, and just for fun, I'm going to compare it to a couple other whips that I've previously made. We'll just see how they sound. For comparison's sake, this is by a margin the shortest whip I've ever made. This is the brand new one I just made. I guess this other one's like not much longer, but the other two are significantly longer. So yeah, in retrospect, I guess I should have made it a little bit longer, but still works pretty well. Yeah, noticeably shorter. There we go. It's okay. Not great. Let's try this one. Yeah, more effortless, that's for sure. I like that one. This one's narrower. That kind of worked. Alright, I want to comment about something. Sometimes it's like not clear which strand is supposed to be higher than the other. So like, am I supposed to come down this way or between these two like that? And long story short, it actually shouldn't matter too much. Like, you'll maybe be able to notice the imperfections if you do it wrong once or twice. Try not to make it a habit, but yeah, it is actually this way. But all I'm saying is, like, it's pretty forgiving. Like, the final product isn't going to be ruined just because you like went through the wrong paracord gap at one time, you know. Okay, so I've gone another 20 centimeters or so. That's probably good for the next step. I should have shown this earlier, but if you're at a place where you want to like let go so you can pick up some more paracord and stuff, you can just tie like each of the sides into their own little slippery hitch here, because then you won't accidentally mix them up.